Well, hello everybody. My name is Laurel and I'm your host for today. And our topic is worship. So what does it mean to worship? I want to share a Bible verse out of Romans chapter 12 verse 1, and it's about worship. And Paul in this verse says this. He says, "Dear brothers and sisters, I urge you because of God's great mercy to offer yourselves as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship." You know, so many times we think of worship as singing and praising God, and that is a form of worship. But here in this verse, Paul says, no, worship is so much more than that. Worship is offering God our whole lives. That's crazy. Wow. I know for me, I didn't start out that way for sure. At the beginning of my relationship with God, it was all about me, what God could do for me. It reminds me of a little kid, right? They don't think about what they can do for you, that it's about receiving. And that's what my relationship was like in the beginning. I loved God. I loved going to church. I loved praising God. It made me feel good. And it didn't really occur to me what I could give back to God. That came as I matured in my faith. As I started to learn to hear God's voice, as I started to study His Word and learn about worship, I realized that, wow, this was a pretty one-side relationship I had with God, and that maybe I needed to change some things. And so I began to respond to God and say yes. Yes to a bunch of things that ended up changing really the trajectory of my life. And so in the beginning, that yes was yes to tithing. My husband and I, we had given to the church, but we didn't give 10% to the church. And I remember learning about giving and tithing and sensing that God was calling me to step up to that. And wow, that was kind of a shock in the very beginning. But, you know, I heard a quote one time and it said, it was like something like this. It says, "I refuse to give to God something that doesn't cost me anything." That's an interesting quote. When I think about Paul's statement to be a living sacrifice, it implies something costly. I'm giving up something. I'm giving up my time, my talents, my treasures. And sometimes we give up really good things, like times with family members in order to serve God, or we give up maybe a career. Or God eventually called me to give up my nursing career, and wow, that was a big part of my identity. I really loved being a nurse. I was a labor and delivery nurse. So I got a lot back from that job. You know, people like their labor and delivery nurses. And I'd run into people at the mall. And of course, they look so much different, you know, when they're not pregnant. But they'd go, "Oh, Laurel, and thank you. And I've got pictures of you and our baby. And I've got a video." And I'd say, "Oh, it's nothing," you know. And it was so gratifying, right? That job, hard job, but it was I got a lot back. And God asked me to lay it down. And I didn't know why. But it was an act of surrender, really. And I did it. I don't regret it. It began an adventure that I had no way of knowing that it would lead to what I'm doing today, which I absolutely love. I'm a director for Savanon, which is a nonprofit that offers healing groups to those who've been sexually abused. And I'm using my nursing background and my pastoral background, and my whole life is really given to God right now. And it is costly, but I would say that it is so rewarding and so fulfilling and hard all at the same time. And I guess I don't mean to elevate myself in saying this, but I think that's what it looks like the longer we walk with God. We should grow up in our faith, and it shouldn't be all about us. It should be about laying down more and more of our life in response to what God has done for us. That's what worship is. It's an appropriate response to what God's done. He left heaven. He came to earth as a baby. He humbled himself. He gave up everything to be abused, rejected, to work really hard. And so when he asks us to follow him and do the same thing, it's not that he didn't do it already, right? And it's an appropriate response for giving up everything and saving us and giving us a future and a hope in heaven. And so I just want to encourage all of us, me included, to remember to worship Jesus this week, not just with words, not just with our song and in our hearts, but with tangible things that maybe would cost us something. Maybe God's calling us to give a donation, or maybe serve on Christmas in the parking lot, or in the kids ministry, or maybe he's calling us to do something else. But let's make a commitment to continue to say yes to Jesus for everything that he's done for us. All right, well, that's my encouragement for today. You guys have a wonderful Christmas, and we will, till next time.